The book of Revelation doesn't just predict the future, it is a criminal profile being built for the very world you live in. We aren't searching for ancient names on a dusty map. We are tracing a global operating system that is silently manipulating everything from your wallet to your soul right now. Why would history's greatest empire evaporate in exactly 1 hour? Why does the entire globe stand by, powerless? By the end of this video, you'll understand why Babylon isn't a distant memory, but the very thing you touch every single day. The investigation begins now. Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great harlot that sitteth upon many waters. In Revelation 17, John is shown a vision that is unlike anything else in the Bible. He sees a woman, but she is more than a person. She is a profile of a global power. She represents an entity that has seduced every king, every merchant, and every nation into a relationship of absolute, toxic dependence. But pay close attention to her location: many waters. In verse 15, the angel provides the forensic key to this puzzle. The waters which thou sawest are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. This isn't about a literal geographic coastline, it's about reach. It's about a system that has woven itself into the very fabric of every culture, every economy, and every household on the planet. But let's pause and look at our reality. In the 21st century, where do these many waters actually flow? We often think of physical oceans or ancient trade routes, but look closer. In our era, there is another ocean covering the globe: the internet. This is Babylon 4.0, an invisible digital nervous system. Think about the way this system operates. It has become the digital operating system for the entire human race. Every transaction you make, every thought you share, and every soul connected to a device must pass through these digital waters to exist in modern society. If ancient Babylon was a trade hub of bricks and mortar, modern Babylon is a digital framework. You cannot buy, you cannot sell, and you can barely function unless you are submerged in this constant flow of data. Every supply chain runs through it. Every financial nerve center is entangled with it. When the Bible describes the merchants of the earth standing far off, watching her smoke rise in total shock, imagine a day when the cloud goes dark. Imagine the moment where every bank account, every digital ID, and every global connection vanishes in a single hour. We see the physical nodes of this system in places like New York, London, or Dubai, cities built on maritime trade and global finance. These are the visible anchors of an invisible web. They are the hubs where wealth concentrates and then radiates outward to the rest of the world. But they are merely the hardware. The many waters are the billions of us connected to the network. This city's influence isn't just political, it's atmospheric. It shapes what you want, what you buy, and who you think you are. It is a relationship of indulgence and corruption that has drawn the entire human race into a state of total, fragile reliance. And the Bible is giving you a warning. Do not confuse the hardware for the system, and do not confuse the system for your security. Because when the many waters are stirred by judgment, the entire infrastructure of the world, both digital and physical, will prove to be as temporary as a breath. Why do we ignore it? Why, as the smoke begins to rise, do we continue to go about our business as if the foundations aren't already cracking? When Babylon falls, the Bible describes the merchants and the kings standing at a distance. They are weeping, they are mourning, but they are not intervening. The reason is a psychological forensic profile known as Normalcy Bias. It is the brain's lethal tendency to believe that because a catastrophe hasn't happened before, it will never happen now. It is the reason people stay in their homes during a flood or keep their money in a failing bank. We are wired to seek the comfort of the status quo, even when the status quo is burning. We live in an illusion of permanence. We wake up, our smartphones connect to the network, our bank accounts show a balance, and the supply chains deliver goods to our door. We assume this system is an immutable law of nature, but the Bible doesn't say Babylon declines over centuries like the Roman Empire. It says, "For in 1 hour is thy judgment come." 1 hour. This is a shock to the human psyche. The brain cannot process a total systemic collapse happening in the time it takes to eat lunch. This is why the world stands afar off. They are paralyzed. Their normalcy bias has been shattered, but too late. Think about your own life. Where is your security? Is it in a retirement plan built on a global financial nerve center? Is it in a digital currency that exists only as long as the power stays on? If your identity and your survival are entangled with a system that Revelation says will disappear in 60 minutes, you aren't just a spectator, you are a victim of the trap. The signs are no longer vague. They are forensic facts. The infrastructure for the waters is in place. The economic hub is identified. And yet the bias keeps us sleeping. The Bible doesn't give us these details to scare us, but to wake us up before the clock starts. Because when that 1 hour begins, the time for preparation has already ended. Why do we ignore it? Why, even as the warning signs flash red, do we continue to go about our lives as if the foundations aren't already cracking? When the Bible describes the fall of Babylon, it tells us the merchants and the kings stand at a distance. They are weeping, they are mourning, but they are not intervening. There is a forensic reason for this apathy, a psychological trap known as the normalcy bias. It is the brain's lethal tendency to believe that because a total systemic collapse has never happened in our lifetime, it simply cannot happen today. It's why people stay in their homes as the floodwaters rise, convinced the rain will stop at any moment. We are wired to seek the comfort of the status quo, even when that status quo is engulfed in flames. We live in a carefully constructed illusion of permanence. We wake up, our smartphones connect to the network, our bank accounts show a balance, and the global supply chains deliver goods to our door. We've been conditioned to assume this system is an immutable law of nature. But the Bible doesn't describe a slow, centuries-long decline like Rome. It uses a phrase meant to shock you into wakefulness. For in 1 hour is thy judgment come. 1 hour. This is a direct assault on the human psyche. The human brain is not built to process a total collapse that occurs in the time it takes to eat lunch. This is why the world stands afar off. They are paralyzed. Their normalcy bias has been shattered, but only when it is too late to move. Think about your own life. Where is your security actually anchored? Is it in a retirement fund built on a global financial nerve center? Is it in a digital currency that exists only as long as the network stays online? If your identity and your hope are entangled with a system that Revelation says will disappear in 60 minutes, you aren't just a spectator, you are a resident of the city that is burning. The forensic precision of these prophecies is not meant to induce panic, but to break the spell of the ordinary. It is a call to look past the illusion of stability, because when that 1 hour begins, the window for preparation has already closed. Let's look at the inventory. In Revelation 18, the Bible doesn't just give us a vague description of wealth, it provides a detailed bill of lading. It lists gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen and silk. It mentions wine and oil, wheat and beasts, horses and chariots. It is the ultimate catalog of a global trade empire, a society that has mastered the art of luxury. But as you read down the list, the items become increasingly disturbing. It starts with precious metals and ends with a horror that most people speed right past. Revelation 18:13, slaves and souls of men. Think about that. In the eyes of Babylon, a human soul is just another commodity. It's listed right alongside the cinnamon and the frankincense. And while we might think of ancient slavery, the forensic reality of our modern world is much more subtle and much more dangerous. We live in what experts call the attention economy. But in the spirit of Babylon, we should call it the commodity of souls. Babylon doesn't just want to sell you a product, she wants to make you the product. This global system harvests your attention, your cravings, and your very identity. Every time you trade your moral conviction for digital convenience or allow a curated algorithm to dictate your fears and your loves, you are being weighed and sold on her exchange. This is the most unsettling part of the profile. This system isn't just a financial network. It's a spiritual vacuum. It seduces you into a relationship of total dependence, where your worth is measured by your consumption and your soul is just another asset to be leveraged. When Babylon falls in that 1 hour, the merchants aren't just weeping over lost gold. They are weeping because their supply of souls has been cut off. The most tragic part of this investigation isn't the economic crash. It's the realization that millions have sold the most sacred part of themselves to a system that was always destined to burn. If you've ever felt like your attention isn't your own, or that your values are being eroded by the very technology you use to stay connected, you are feeling the pull of the trade in souls. And the question you have to ask is, what is the price of yours? We leave the smoke of the burning trade hubs behind because while Babylon represents the collapse of the global economy, Jerusalem represents the collapse of faith. For 3,000 years, the city has been the spiritual epicenter of the human race. And in the final days, it doesn't face immediate destruction. It faces deception. This is the Jerusalem hotspot. Turn your attention to the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27. This is the verse that starts the final 7-year countdown for the entire planet. It speaks of a leader who will confirm the covenant with many. This isn't a military invasion, it's a diplomatic triumph. This figure, the Antichrist, succeeds where every world leader before him has failed. He brokers a multilateral peace deal so powerful that it allows the restoration of the temple services on the most contested piece of land on earth. Now look at the world today. This is no longer a theoretical scenario. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has already drafted architectural plans for the third temple. They have trained the Levitical priests. They have prepared the golden vessels and even bred the red heifers required for the ancient purification ceremonies. The intention is real. The infrastructure is ready. But here is the forensic twist. The peace he brings is a trap. Midway through the 7 years, exactly 42 months in, the man the world celebrated as a visionary reveals his true face. He causes the sacrifice to cease. He walks into the holy place, not as a visitor, but as a God. Paul tells us in 2 Thessalonians that he exalteth himself above all that is called God. He demands the worship of the entire human race from the one spot on earth dedicated to the living God. This is the abomination of desolation. We are moving from the fall of an economic system to the rise of a spiritual nightmare. And as the world celebrates this false peace, the clock is already ticking toward the greatest crisis Jerusalem has ever seen. While the Antichrist is declaring himself God inside the temple, the real battle isn't happening in a boardroom or a palace. It's happening in the streets of Jerusalem. 2 men appear, clothed in sackcloth, the ancient garment of mourning and repentance. They aren't just preachers. They are a supernatural anomaly that the most powerful political figure on earth cannot silence for 1,260 days. But look at the forensic profile of these 2 witnesses. Why can't they be touched? Revelation says that if anyone tries to hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouths. They have the power to shut the sky so it does not rain, and the power to turn water into blood. This mirrors the greatest prophets in history, Elijah and Moses. But there is a deeper legal reason for their immunity. Hebrews 9:27 states a universal law. It is appointed unto men once to die. Yet in the entire history of humanity, there are 2 individuals who bypass this law. Enoch and Elijah were taken by God while they were still alive. They are heaven's reserve witnesses, held in the archives of eternity for one specific mission. They have returned to Jerusalem to finish their testimony and finally meet the appointment with death that every human being must face. For 3.5 years, the Antichrist is humiliated by two men he cannot silence. But when their testimony is finished, the beast is permitted to overcome them. They are killed, and their bodies are left in the street of the great city, publicly shamed. And then comes the verse that baffled scholars for nearly 2,000 years. Revelation 11:9 says, "And they of the people in kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half." In the first century, that was a physical impossibility. How could a tribe in a remote jungle or a merchant in a distant land see a body in a Jerusalem street? Today, that is a push notification. It is a satellite feed. It is a 24/7 global live stream on billions of smartphones. The technology required to fulfill this specific verse didn't exist for 1,900 years, until right now. The world celebrates. They send gifts to one another. They throw a global party because the voices that tormented their conscience are finally silent. But as the entire planet watches their screens, the greatest twist in human history is about to be broadcast to every device on Earth.